Hello, this is my solution to the classwork problem where we're making this ATM machine. I can't believe I said ATM machine. The M stands for machine. Okay, so we're making an ATM. I had said that part of the warm-up is let's imagine a bank account object. So I'm going to create a class called bank account. Because remember, you want the name of your class to be an easy-to-read word because that's going to be the name of the data type. And I want my data type to be called bank account. All right, so I'm going to write, so I don't want public static void main because this is going to be, I'm defining a new kind of object. I'm not writing code that's going to run directly. It's more like a blueprint for what does it mean to be a bank account. So I'm not going to do public static void main. I'm going to write a comment just to help myself think and plan here. So I asked you to come up with the three most important things, the three most important pieces of information a bank account has. So I think one is like, whose is it? Like who's the person? Another is the amount of money in it. That's an important fact about a bank account. And the last one I think is some type of password or PIN number for how you access the bank account. You might think that the account number is also important, and that's okay also. So like maybe we could do all of those. So although making an account number is actually going to involve some more complicated stuff that I don't want to talk about right now. So let's just do these three. All right, so I've decided these are my three variables. So I'm going to make a string called name for whose bank account is it. I'm going to make a double called amount for how much money is in it. And I'm going to make an int called PIN for what's the PIN number. All right, so now I'm going to make a constructor. Remember, a constructor is a command whose job is to give these variables their starting values. And it has a special built-in pattern where I say public, and then I have to have the name of my object, so public bank account. And then inside parentheses, I'm going to have whatever inputs I want to take to give these their values. So you might think I'd do this, string n double a int p. And what we'd do is we'd say this.name equals n. So the input, the first input here, whatever string they tell us, I'm going to take that input and save it as the name. This.amount equals a, and this.pin equals p. And you could do that, and that would work. But when you first open a bank account, I want it to start with $0 in it. So what that means is I want this dot amount always to equal 0 when the object gets created. And what that means is it would be weird to have this as an input because this input is telling whoever is going to run the constructor to construct a new bank account, it's asking them, what amount do you want to start out with? But I don't want to ask them what amount to start out with. I want the amount always to be 0. So I'm just going to remove that. And that's okay. And you may not have realized that before, but the job of the constructor is to give these starting values. But sometimes the starting value could just be a predefined number, a default number that's the same for every single object that gets created. And then this is just, the starting amount of money. Later on, we'll have commands that will let you add more money. Okay, so far so good. We've got this bank account. Let's go back to ATM main. I'm going to go ahead and create some new bank accounts here. Well, so first I'm going to create, what do I really want to do here? I guess for the moment, let's just create one bank account object. So bank account B equals new bank account. And I'm going to give it my name, and I'm going to give it my PIN number. It's a very secure PIN. Okay. Cool. So I made a bank account, and now it's going to have this interactive menu. And I guess we're assuming that I've already typed in my PIN number. We'll deal with the security issues in a minute. So in case let's just talk through how this works very briefly. So I've got this scanner, which is how I'm going to read the user input. I've got this do while loop. And to understand what's happening, you got to go all the way down to the closing brace. So what's in between, this is what's getting repeated. And I'm going to keep repeating it as long as the user choice isn't equal to 0. Okay, so what is it that I'm repeating? First, I'm going to display a menu of choices. Then I'm going to ask the user to type what their choice is. And then I'm going to test whatever they typed. And I'm going to say if they chose option 1, then do something that corresponds to option 1. And if they chose option 2, then I'm going to do something. So this is me handling whatever their requests were. Let's look inside display menu. That's a command I wrote down here. And all it does is it's just got a bunch of print statements that says, welcome to the ATM. You could exit or deposit or withdraw or display balance. All right, so I'm going to go up here. So I guess I'm going to start filling in what I want to have happen in the middle here. So choice 1 would be deposit. So let's write some pseudocode. What do I want to have happen when they choose deposit? I guess I want to ask them how much they want to deposit, and then I want to actually put that amount of money into the bank account. That makes sense. Let's think about the other options. For withdraw, same thing. I want to ask them how much they want to withdraw. Oops. And then I want to try and subtract that from the bank account. And we have to think a little bit here. Like, obviously, if they want to withdraw $1 million, but they only have 20 bucks in their account, we shouldn't let them withdraw money they don't have. But that's something at a basic level, this is what we want it to do. So we'll worry about that in a minute. Okay, so last is display balance. So I guess that's all we need to do. So ask accounts to display balance. All right, let's head back over to the bank account. So we've outlined 3 important actions that we might want to take with a bank account. We might want to put money into it, we might want to take money out of it, and we might want to check how much money there is. So a lot of people were asking, like, how do you know where to put different parts of your code? Like, do you put code inside the object, or do you put code inside the main part of it? And the idea is, I said at the beginning, you can think of your object as a container for different variables that all have to do with the same thing. So a name and an amount and a PIN, those are all variables that have to do with one bank account. But then you should also have commands that are related to what you might want to do with these variables. So any action that you might want to take that changes these variables should be the responsibility of the bank account object. Like, you should have a command that does whatever changes to these variables someone might want to do. So let's start writing it. So I'm going to say public void deposit. And I'm just going to write sort of like empty ones right now. Public void withdraw, and then public void check balance. So one of these is going to be easy. We can do it already. Check balance, all I need to do is display the person and the amount of money. So name has, and then plus amount. So I'm just going to display the amount of money up there. And now that I've written this command, I can use the command over here. So again, you have to do this mental switch where here we're giving a bank account abilities. Once you have a bank account, you can ask to deposit or withdraw or check balance. But here is where we're actually having the user decide which of those abilities we want to do. Which of those commands do we actually want to run? So here we ask them to choose an option, and if they chose the option that says display the balance, then what we want to do is start with the name of our bank account, which is B, and I'm going to run the check balance command. So it's sort of like in the main program, you handle the user requests. The user has typed they want to display the balance, and the way that we're handling that request is we're turning around and we're asking the actual object to do something for us. We're saying, hey, object, could you tell us your balance? So it's nice to sort of test as you go. So let's go ahead and test what we've got so far. So this is welcome to the ATM. If I type like deposit, if I type withdraw, right now that doesn't do anything because that if statement's empty. But if I type 3, now it says David Dobrovich has $0. Awesome. And then I'm going to type 0 to exit. All right, so far so good. So let's try and make the rest of this do what we want it to do. So here, let's do depositing. Ask them how much and put that amount into the bank account. So let's do it without using commands first. First, I want to say, let's use a JOption pane for this one, actually. So I'm going to say string r JOption pane show input dialog how much to deposit. And then whatever they type to deposit. Okay, so whatever they type, that's how much I want to deposit. So remember, you have to convert the string into an integer. Excuse me. So if they type like $10, now we're going to turn that $10 into a number. And now we actually have to put the $10 into the account. So before, you know that you could do something like this. Well, we can't just run the deposit command, because if you look inside the deposit command right now, that command does nothing. So even though it's got a name that makes it sound like it's going to do something, we actually haven't written any code to make it do something. Right now, we can actually just access the bank account variables directly. So you can say b.amount equals b.amount plus toDeposit. So if this is 10, it's like take the current amount of money inside the bank account, add $10, save that as the new amount of money. Let's do the same thing for withdrawing. I'm just going to copy this code and paste it, except I'm going to say how much to withdraw, and then I'm going to call this to withdraw, because like think about the name. It's like how much money to withdraw do I want? And then instead of adding that amount of money from the amount in the bank account, I'm going to subtract it. All right, so here's the problem. There's a couple of problems. Well, actually, let's run it to illustrate the problems. All right, so I'm going to start by withdrawing. Oh, sorry, and now it's, here we go. How much to withdraw? I'm going to withdraw $1,000. And now if I display my balance, it says David Dobrovich has negative $1,000. But the problem is I don't want to let it do that. I don't want to be able to withdraw money I don't have. So I need some way of preventing this. The other problem is now let's start worrying about security. Like my bank account has a PIN number, but nowhere in this program did I ask for the PIN number. So, you know, just any old person could run the program, and now they're messing with my bank account variables. So I'm going to teach you a very important new thing right now. The important new thing is most programmers wouldn't actually create their variables this way. This is very uncommon. What they would actually do is have this special word before each variable called private. And what private does, you can see that there's problems, and I'll show you what they are. What private does is it means that only the bank account object itself can access these variables. So inside like a withdraw method, I could say, you know, amount equals amount minus 10 or something, and that's just fine. A bank account can access its own variable. But over here, you see now we've got some red, and if I hover over it, it says amount has private access in bank account. And what it's trying to tell me is my program in main isn't allowed to access the variables inside the bank account. Well, this may seem goofy to you because, like, what am I supposed to do now? If I can't access the variables inside the bank account, how am I supposed to change them? But here's the shift in thinking that I want you to have. My main program isn't actually supposed to change the bank account variables. It's supposed to ask the bank account object to change its own variables. And the reason why that's better is because the bank account can now control the access. So for example, I could force it to give I could give it a PIN number, and if you get the PIN number wrong, then it won't do the depositing or it won't do the withdrawing. So that's what I want to do. Let's not only ask how much to deposit, let's also ask for the PIN number. So I'm going to copy and paste that, and I'm going to say what's your PIN number? And I'm going to call this PIN for PIN. I'm going to call it PIN num. And so then if I'm going to tell my bank account I want to make a deposit, like the bank account needs two pieces of information. It needs to know how much money am I trying to deposit and what's the PIN number. So inside the parentheses, I'm going to add two inputs. I'm going to add how much money, and I'm going to add the PIN number. You'll see this is underlined in red, and it says expected 2 arguments but found 0. That word arguments means inputs. So it's saying the deposit method is expecting no inputs at all, but I'm trying to give it these 2 inputs. Let me show you. Let's do split screen. So over, all right, so over here, you can see our empty deposit method. And you can see that inside the parentheses, there's nothing. And that means that it expects no inputs. Whereas like if you look at the bank account constructor, here I've got 2 variables. So that means when I run the constructor, I need to give it 2 input pieces of information to do something with. So I want to change the way that my deposit method works so that I take 2 inputs. And the first input is going to be money, how much money to deposit. And the second input is going to be user's PIN number. So let's sort of imagine how this works. To deposit is a number that I got from over here, like the user typed it in. And PIN num is a number I got because the user typed it in. So these are actually 2 numbers now. They might be like $1,000 and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So now I'm going to run the deposit method with 2 numbers, 1,000 and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These 2 numbers, you can see how it says money and user PIN. It's because the IDE knows that this 1,000 is going to get assigned to that variable. So it's just like a constructor. The numbers I give get assigned to the variables that are declared inside the parentheses. And that's how you get numbers inside your object so that your object can do stuff. So what I want to do is I want to check the PIN number. I want to see if user PIN equals the actual PIN number. So did they get it right? And if they got it right, then I'll say the amount of money in my bank account equals the amount of money in my bank account plus money. Okay, but here, let me change this back now to deposit and PIN number. Okay, so what I want you to do right now as a self-test is try and make those same changes for withdraw. So you're going to need to ask them for their PIN number. You're going to need to replace this with b.withdraw. But now withdraw is also going to need some inputs, and you're going to need to make the changes here inside withdraw. Okay, so pause the video, give it a try, and then we'll look at the solution. All right, so here's the solution. I'm going to go ahead and copy the what's your PIN number part. Oops, paste that here. The input to withdraw should be the amount of money I want to withdraw, and then a comma, and then the PIN number. And now I need to rewrite how my withdraw method works. Instead of going back and forth, you could hold the control key, or if you're on a Mac, the command key. And if you're holding control or command and then click, it will actually jump your code right to the withdraw method. Okay, so I need 2 inputs. I need an amount of money, which I'll call money, and I'll need a user PIN. And now I actually want to check 2 things. I want to say if user PIN equals PIN, because if it doesn't, then I would just want to exit immediately. But I want to check one more thing. If money is less than or equal to the amount of money in my bank account, then I want to say amount equals amount minus money. Let's add an else statement. Otherwise, I'm going to print out you only have, and then, amount dollars. So that way, if they request an amount of money that's bigger than the amount in their bank account, it'll go to the else statement and it will tell them they only have that much money. If they get the PIN wrong, I guess maybe let's add wrong pin. Let's do that here too. So else, S out, wrong pin. All right, let's test it all now to make sure it's gonna work. Oh, it doesn't like me redefining R. I'm gonna call it R2. All right, so let's run it. Okay, so first I'm gonna try and withdraw. Oh, I forgot. I shouldn't have used J option pane. How much to withdraw? I'm gonna withdraw 10 bucks. And my pin is going to be 3, which is the wrong pin. Here it says wrong pin, and then it gives me another shot. Okay, let's withdraw again. How much to withdraw? 10 bucks. Now my pin is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think that was the right pin. So now I got the pin right, but it says you only have $0. Okay, so let's deposit money. Let's deposit 100 bucks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, I'm going to display my balance. It says 100 bucks. Now I'm going to withdraw. I'm going to withdraw $30, and my pin is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And now I'm going to display the balance, and it says 70 bucks. All right, great. So that seems to be working.